Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 21 of Divergent Dialogues. Today, we are going to be having a chat about pervasive drive for autonomy, or PDA. It's more pathological name or medical model name, DSM name. Actually, no, it's not in the DSM, but
No.
the
Pathological demand avoidance is,
yeah. But neuroaffirming, pervasive drive for autonomy. So what is it? PDA refers to a set of behaviours typically displayed by autistic individuals who have an intense need for control, a strong desire for sameness, and extreme avoidance of everyday demands. That is according to Christie et al. And O'Neill's et al.
Yeah, big topic.
Yeah, it is quite a controversial one. So
Yeah.
there's lots of clinicians, researchers that will suggest that it's not a thing. It's not valid, but those who identify as having a PDA profile, they will absolutely tell you different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they will. They will. Yeah. So I think I identify as a PDAer. And I think like most people, if they met me, probably would be like, what? Why? Like they wouldn't, I don't think many people would see it. But I think for me, it is a very internalized experience. Someone who previously was, very highly masking. It's, I was talking to Teena previous to the episode. It's kind of like as a autistic person, there's so many, like just at the baseline, there's so many demands just day-to-day life, but then there's like executive functioning demands and sensory and a list of all these internal and external demands, even just having to go to the toilet, like all these things.
Yeah.
And I think like as a neurotypical person, like obviously like every person, or maybe not babies, but generally people, or even they need to go to the toilet. Everyone has to, everyone has some sort of demands. Like we like otherwise, yeah. But as an autistic person, there's these daily additional demands that neurotypical people don't have, like such as the sensory challenges or executive functioning challenges. So yeah, I think it's really important to acknowledge that challenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess maybe it'd be helpful to tease out a bit what is a demand.
Yeah. Well, daily life can present various different demands, encompassing both direct and indirect pressures. So direct demands include explicit requests or questions from others or situations that need immediate attention. Indirect demands, on the other hand, often stem from internal pressures and expectations we place on ourselves, or subtle cues and societal norms we feel compelled to follow. And I think that the subtle societal norms that the demand that they create on an autistic person, it's really draining, because if you walk through the grocery checkout and don't engage in small talk with the cashier, then you're perceived as a bit of an asshole. And I don't like being looked at that way, but at the same time, that demand to engage in that small talk that takes up so much energy feels quite irritating as well. It's yeah.
Yeah, and I think like, obviously all people and all autistic people have demands in life. And I guess like as a PDA, it's more that, you know, it in the extreme challenges with those demands. But yeah, I think yeah, it's just like, you know, if you sit there and you think about all the demands that you have in a day, it's like an insane amount. And, you know, even as a PDA myself, like if I'm in the middle of something and I need to eat or I need to go to the toilet, I get really mad because I'm like, I don't want it. Like, I'm doing this, like body stop. Like, and I'm getting a lot better at that because obviously meeting our bodily needs is an important part of our physical and mental health, and listening to my body. You know, whereas in the past I would ignore it. It's like, you know, the notifications coming up on your phone and you're like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I do, like I feel this strong, like I don't want to go to the toilet right now. I'm doing this. But
It can
yeah,
almost feel like a disconnect, you know, it's like your body is like another person external to you making you do things, but it's, yeah, you can't just say no, because at some point it starts to take over and force you to do it anyway. Yeah, it is really frustrating. It's like the head and the body are disconnected.
yeah. Yeah, but I guess, you know, as an autistic person, particularly a PDA, you know, like especially before, I mean, even after you're diagnosed, but you know, especially someone who's grown up without an identification of being autistic. Like I have heard so many horror stories of, you know, my clients being forced into really uncomfortable situations, particularly as children, um, you know, particularly from a sensory perspective, because there wasn't an understanding around autism. Like, you know, for example, like I just think of my childhood of like I have a lot of sensory sensitivities when it comes to food, and the whole like, oh, you have to eat everything on your plate, and you know, you can't waste food, and you know, you have to eat your vegetables and all this kind of thing. And that's really traumatizing when, like, you know, I'm trying to think of an example of something that's disgusting to me. Mangoes, which is really weird because I live in Queensland, although I was born in Victoria, so maybe that's part of it. But in Queensland, like if you don't like mangoes, you're weird.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm kind of weird anyway, so whatever. But you like mangoes?
No, I don't.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but I'm born in New South Wales.
Oh, there you go. So yeah. Anyway, so I hate mangoes, and like for me, the smell, like a smell of a mango, I feel like it's gross. If I have to touch it, it's like, oh, it's like a physical reaction that I cannot control, that I have in, it's like a full body like to touch, like because they're slimy, and then sometimes you get stuff in your teeth and it's gross. And anyway, so when you're having this strong sensory aversion to something and someone is telling you you have to eat that and shove that down your throat and eat it, it's really traumatizing because your body is saying no, but externally you're being told you have to eat this.
Yeah.
And you know, back in the day, like especially with parenting, that was the done thing.
Yeah.
You know, sit down, be quiet, eat your food. Like, and that's just one example.
Yeah, the food one I think is a that's a big one in like my childhood growing up. Not as much for me. I was the good kid that ate everything on their
Okay.
plate. But my younger sister, she was super, super like had food aversion, and she had a really sort of limited diet, like her food preferences. And yeah, dinner time every single night was just horrible, really, really horrible. And I think because of that, it meant that she just never had the confidence to try food, because as you get to adulthood, where you've got a bit more autonomy and control over your choices, it still feels like if I say yes to trying something, then there's no choice until it's
I'm locked in.
Yeah. And it's it can have like really lasting effects.
Exactly. So like when you're already having this bodily reaction to this, say it's a mango, this food, and then you're told that you have to eat it, and you're getting more and more dysregulated and more triggered, like you're gonna clamp down and go, nope, I'm not eating that. I'm not eating that, because it's just feeding into these feelings that you're already having. Whereas if you're in a, like as an adult, I have it's more varied, I would say, than when I was a child. But as an adult, it's like I have a choice to engage or not engage with a particular food. If I eat it and I don't like it, then I can discontinue eating it. But yeah, I think I guess I really want to cement the fact that like it's really traumatizing for particularly young kids in these situations where they're essentially being told to ignore what their body is telling them.
Yeah. And I think that it can be really hard trying to find a balance between the like listening to your body, trusting what your body's saying, but also I want to expand here. How do I move into the discomfort of newness in a safe sort of way? And responding to some of these demands that it's like I kind of want to do these things, because if I can do A, B, C, then I get to end goal, which is what I really want. But it's all now this big demand and I'm frozen solid. It's quite that internal conflict.
That's a really interesting point, Teena. There's actually been some research by Stewart et al. That indicated that intolerance to uncertainty and anxiety significantly contribute to extreme demand avoidance behaviors in children and adolescents with PDA. So, like, that fits in really well with what you were saying, because it's, I mean, if you are feeling uncertain about something, if someone is pressuring you into it, it's not going to really, like, you're already, like, especially as autistic people, like, change, we don't love change. It can be a struggle for us. And then if it's change and it's uncertain, that's even a bigger struggle. So it's like you're already in this space of feeling vulnerable because it's a change, and you're uncertain about what the outcome's going to be. You're uncertain about if you're going to like it or dislike it. And then if someone is pressuring you, then you're feeling even more dysregulated. And it's, if someone is uncertain about change, like, a lot of my clients, PDAs or not, sometimes it is about supporting someone through that uncertainty, or trying to make it less uncertain for that person so that they feel more confident in that. But yeah, we can't just force people into doing things when they're feeling so dysregulated and distressed, because it's going to have the opposite effect. You're not going to get the outcome that you're hoping for. And sometimes, like, often the quick easy route isn't the route that's going to get the best outcome.
Yeah, you're right. It's not quick and easy. And I guess that whole idea around just because you have the ability to do a task, it doesn't mean you are able to do a task.
Yeah. And also it's about consistency. So it's like, if I commit to doing X, then there's going to be this expectation of myself, or an external social expectation, that I'm going to do that in the exact same way every single time. So I'm not going to commit to that, because I don't know if I can commit to this thing ongoing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's like trying to reduce future demands. And again, like autistic people or just, you know, people in general might do that, and that's totally okay. But it's when you're saying no to like literally everything because, you know, and again, like with I guess I don't want to get in this space where people are struggling with demands and they're going, oh, I have PDA, because PDA, it's this whole other ballpark thing. And as you said, like if you've experienced it, then you know what it is.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
And
Um,
there are some questionnaire type screening
yeah.
questionnaires that are available to explore that PDA profile to help distinguish between that discomfort of change and demands, as opposed to the PDA profile. So even though it's not an official diagnosis or profile type concept just yet, there are definitely some resources to help figure out if that is what is happening for you or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that I do with some of my clients. There's a measure, it's like the extreme demand avoidance questionnaire, and you know, to kind of explore that with them. And yeah, I think I'm just having this memory of, I feel kind of, it's so funny. I feel kind of bad to admit this, but anyway, I'm going to say it anyway. But because you know, this is the nature of PDA. So um you know, I guess a hallmark of PDA is that people will use social strategies to get out of things. And sometimes I don't even realize that I'm doing it. And it's not a manipulation. It's not I'm purposely doing these things. Like most of the time it's just this instinct that you're driven by. And so when I graduated, I got into this grad program, and I was in this community adult mental health role at the time. It was one of my placements. And part of that role is that you had to do intake assessments. And as an autistic, like I was undiagnosed at the time, as an autistic person at that point of my career, I felt very uncomfortable doing intake assessments, um, because essentially, like, you don't really know, like, someone can walk in and you have no information, and it's, yeah, like uncertainty is incredibly high, like incredibly high.
Yeah.
And the demographic and the service, like you're working with people who are acutely unwell, mental health issues. And yeah, anyway, there was this expectation that at a minimum you would do X amount of days being on the intake list. And people, like, you might not have any, but you could. So again, very uncertain.
Yeah.
And I seem to always like you'd put yourself on the roster, and I seem to just magically every single time that I was on the roster, I would have a sick day. And and one of my colleagues went, Caitlin, are you just pulling sickies? Like, are you just doing this on purpose? And I was genuinely offended. I was like, do you seriously think that I'm doing this on purpose? And then I sat there and I had to think about it all. And again, this was before I knew I was autistic, any of this stuff. I thought, think about it. I was like, oh, I think you're right. But like, it wasn't this like process where I was aware and I was doing this. It was just like there was this thing in my body that was feeling uncomfortable and uncertain and scared. And I was doing these things and getting out of it without purposely trying to get out of it. It was like, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is the nature of PDA, is that you hoodwink yourself. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is an area that still has lots to be researched, lots to understand. about the PDA profile, and I think it is a really valid area of research for people to be looking at and spending more time getting to know what this is all about, because it can be really distressing. And if you don't know what is going on for you, and you're just constantly being told that you're not trying hard enough, being lazy, all of those sorts of things, but you know that's not what is going on for you, then like that really takes its toll on your sense of self, and that sense of connection with the world around you.
And I think, I guess, based on my lived experience, I don't know, I feel like I'm a semi-reformed perfectionist, but one of my internal demands was perfectionism. So whenever I commit to something, I'm going, okay, can I do this? Like, not like these days I have a lot of a better, I guess a healthier view of things. But, back a few years ago, I'd be like, okay, can I commit to this and do it perfectly and consistently do it perfectly all the time? So I guess, that was another thing that, was a big challenge for me as a PDAer. But I think I might just share one more personal story, just to kind of, I think there's the best way that I tend to learn about myself is through other people's narratives and other people's stories, and seeing if I kind of resonate with that. And I don't I feel like there's not there are some people that's big about PDA, but it's not like as big as kind of the broader autistic movement and everything. But anyway, I've been doing like content for social media and whatever, and it's not getting a ton of views and whatever. And so my sister, who does some work for me, she's like, oh, I think you need to do some videos in this sort of format, because it gets more views. And like I agree, I know that, everything. And but I feel a bit uncomfortable doing videos in that format, because I kind of feel like it's masking and feels a bit ick to me. And then I was trying to do it, and I was trying to use TikTok, and I was trying to use this, and I couldn't get anything of it to work. And I essentially had this meltdown. I didn't even fully understand it myself until afterwards. I had this I was by myself, and I just kind of was crying, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And essentially in that moment, it's just like I described it to Teena, it's just like a chorus of every single person, or every single thing or every single situation where I've been forced into doing something that I didn't feel comfortable with, pressuring coming down on me. And it's silly, because I told my sister I'd said, hey, look, I'm not really motivated to do this. Can you kind of, push me a little bit to do this? So I consented to that. But still, it was just because I just felt this incongruence with doing the task, and I just felt this massive pressure. Like, no one was pressuring me. Like, my sister was like, well, if you can do it, great. If not, whatever. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But I think, I think, honestly, like PDA, it's definitely linked with anxiety. It's linked with challenges with sitting with discomfort of uncertainty. But I think it's majorly linked with trauma. And when I was talking about trauma, I'm talking about that repetitive experience of not having autonomy of your body, where your body is significantly adverse to something, whether it's sensory or whatever, and you're being told, no, you've got to do that. And as an adult, there's so many situations where, brushing my teeth is something that's really painful, but I do it because I want to have good, I brush my teeth twice a day, but it's a really uncomfortable, painful experience for me. So there's so many demands in life where I'm having to choose to put myself in discomfort for some other benefit. And then for someone to come to me and put a demand on me on top of that, my brain just explodes. It's really hard, and it's not a choice. It's like this body reaction.
Yeah.
It's like your body is going no in a
Mm.
very strong way.
It would,
Very strong way.
it'd be really interesting to spend a day or even a week listing out all the things we do in a day that we're having to really push ourselves into and sit in that discomfort to get done.
So many things. Yeah.
It would kind of highlight why it's so draining and so like frustrating sometimes.
Like most people, they just brush their teeth and they wouldn't take 2 seconds. Whereas like I've got to gear myself up for it. I've got to trick my brain into going, well, this is going to be great because you're not going to have to pay $1 million for dental. Like it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work to manage those feelings. But anyway, I think I've also written a blog about this as well. So I go into a little bit more detail around my experience and also like some of the research and things like that. So you're welcome to check it out. But yeah, I hope like this might have been helpful for some people who might be curious about PDA profile. And as I said, like I think it is important to seek a neurodivergent affirming person to explore this, because what we're talking about, it's not just dealing with those, being adverse to those demands. Because I think like as an autistic person, I think that's quite a common experience. It's that extreme where it's significantly impacting your day-to-day life, where in impacting on those day-to-day things that you need to do. And like for me, like as a PDA having my own business, that really helps me to manage some of that. When I worked for others, it was a lot harder to manage a lot of that. So yeah,
especially when the demands don't make sense.
Oh yeah, we could do another episode on that one. But anyway, so thank you to everyone for tuning in, and if you like this episode, check out some of our other episodes. We've got a bunch of other topics, and Teena and I are really passionate about this area, so it'd be nice if you could share in that with us.